Hello and welcome to This Is Portsmouth.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another instalment of This Is Portsmouth. My name is Dan and I'm joined today by my wonderful co-host, Eve.
Thanks, Dan. I'm so excited to be presenting the show with you today.
And you're joining us on a very special episode of This Is Portsmouth, where we're focusing on deaf awareness and the importance of inclusion.
We are lucky enough to be chatting to Liz a bit later on, who just introduced the show for us.
She'll be teaching us a little more on the importance of British Sign Language, otherwise known by the acronym BSL, as well as her own experiences. Have you got any deaf experience in your family?
Yep, so my grandparents were deaf, making I don't, but it does go to show that deafness and deaf culture is a lot more common than you would think. And I don't think it gets enough attention, but that is exactly why we're here today, to give you all a chance to learn about it. Let's take a look.
My name is Suzanne de Montis and I work here in the university as a receptionist. At the age of 16 I had an operation that not only did it not work, it got worse. And so I ended up being partially deaf to profoundly deaf. That was really hard. Some people are not aware of how difficult it can be for a deaf person. For example, I had a friend back in the days, 20, 30 years ago. He would always say that I had selective hearing, but what he wasn't aware is things like background noise really affects deaf people. You will find here, just you and I talking like this, it's perfectly fine and nobody would realise that there can be issues. But in a pub or going out at evening or even just walking down the street with cars going past, it's not easy. I learned British Sign Language, not as a deaf person, but as a person, it was out of interest. I think it's a great skill to be able to, if more and more people could do that.
My name is Joe Levy, so Joe. I did a little bit of sign language when I was very young at speech therapy, and I think I felt like that really helped. I didn't want to let my drama stop me from being able to talk, but then sometimes, you know, there was a freedom of being able to get that out straight away. You know, it's less embarrassing. I can just sign the word and it's done. my stutter is not hidden, but it's not as obvious as it used to be. But I still need that other form of communication. Nowadays, there's a bit of an ignorance towards people like that. It's, oh, have a hearing aid, or why don't you just go to speech therapy, like learn it, be able to talk properly, you know. I feel like that'll be a reason for people to help everyone.
Despite my disability, I think I've done well in life. I have a lovely husband and I have 2 lovely children. They've always spoken very clearly, by the way, when they were young. They never had any baby words. They always spoke very clearly to me because they knew I was deaf. So that's lovely. That's a positive thing.
That was a really moving VT. Thanks to Joe and Suzanne for their contribution. It just goes to show that the smallest gestures can make all the difference. Now, as you may have noticed, Dan's not with me right now. Let's find out where he is.
Thanks, Eve. As we mentioned at the start, we are lucky enough to have the amazing Liz Austin interpreting the show with us today. I am now in the green screen studio with her. Now that does mean that she won't be interpreting this conversation, so if you do have access needs, feel free to click the CC in the bottom right of the screen to enable auto-generated subtitles. Liz, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
So what role does sign language play in your life?
It's my first language.
And how long have you been signing for?
Since the day I was born, I suppose.
And was that out of necessity or was that a choice?
It's because my parents were deaf,
So
it was just me.
So you're a coder as well?
I'm a coder,
yeah. And do you interpret for people often these days, or is it?
No, like I used to do it for my mum and dad, but they passed away. My boys, if they need me, I'd do it, but they're grown up now, so.
And how do you think that learning that has sign language benefited you? How do you think that's benefited you, aside from the obvious communication benefits?
Best of both worlds.
You have that extra layer of relation to deafness, I guess, isn't
it's like being in a pub and being noisy and people shouting, I just sign.
It's always a second option, always a great. So is it hard to keep up with people sometimes when you're interpreting?
It can be. It's like, as on the video, background noise, things like that, and you're trying to concentrate, but you get there in the end.
And when you are interpreting, do you digest the information first, or is it more like muscle memory?
Hit and miss.
Does it depend on how well you know the person's pattern of speech?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
So have you got any kind of dream people you'd like to interpret for?
Sad, yeah, Jamie Kyle.
So that one I'd imagine would be quite hard. There's a lot of aggressive sign language you'd have to do there.
Fun.
Are there any? Have you ever been to a kind of an event where people are signing and you've ever picked up on an issue that they've had?
Yeah.
Do you spot mistakes more often than people?
Yeah.
Where have you spotted mistakes before?
I think it's like I was watching a TV programme once and a little person in there thinking, well, I don't recognise that sign. But then it wasn't a mistake because sign changes over the years. And I had to remember it's not the 70s or 80s no more.
So could you teach us a bit of sign language?
Yeah.
So how would we say, this is Portsmouth? How do you say this is Portsmouth? So this. And then
Hang on, let me just...
This. And then is. P. So P mouth for Portsmouth, as it's abbreviated on road signs almost. Yeah. And how would you say, my name is Dan? How would you say that? Yeah. Yeah. So my name D A N. Oh, amazing. And as we're coming up to the festive season, what's Merry Christmas? How would you say Merry Christmas? Happy. Like that? Yeah. Oh, that's a great sign. That's a great one. Have you got any particular favourite signs that are broadcastable, obviously?
It's always got to be Hi, how are you?
Oh, that's a great. As you give the thumbs up as you
Yeah.
ask how people are.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love how a kind of expressive sign language is one that I always remember from watching people like Justin on Something Special and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Is hippopotamus is always one of my favourites. It's a very expressive language, sign
Yeah.
language, isn't it? And how do you think that we can broaden the appeal of it? How can you think you can get it out to more people?
It's basically making deaf awareness, BSL awareness, looking online, learning BSL is one thing I think everyone should know a bit of BSL.
And finally, how do you say thank you?
Thank you.
Amazing. And thank you so much, Liz, for teaching us some sign language. That was really insightful. And as Liz said, alongside this wonderful demonstration, there is a huge amount of free online resources to help you learn BSL at home. There's a world of change out there for a whole community of people right at your fingertips, quite literally. Thanks again, Liz.
You're welcome.
Back to you, Eve, in the studio.
Well, I love that, guys. And now, whilst we're exploring ways of expressing yourself with your hands, why not throw your hips into it as well? Adding a bit of fancy footwork, we've taken a step back from music performances this week to give you something a bit more visual, a freestyle salsa routine by the brilliant Meg Jones and Jess Hunter. Let's take a look.
I'm back. What a way to end the show. So not only am I now going to be taking BSL lessons, I'm also going to learn how to salsa because that's amazing.
It was fantastic, wasn't it? And it's incredible to get this insight into two very different cultures, one focusing so much on the expression via communication and the other so much focusing on the expression via dance. And so, in the meantime, thank you so much to Liz Austin for joining us and interpreting everything you've seen on screen today. You were absolutely fantastic, not to mention vital.
Yeah, she was absolutely amazing to speak to. And thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. I've been Dan.
And I've been Eve.
And this
is Portsmouth.